Do you want to watch Gozyuger but are a little behind? No problem. Here is the entire story of number 1 Sentai Gozyuger's first round. Gozyuger is the 49th season in the Super Sentai series, however it falls in 2025, the 50th year anniversary of Super Sentai. At an unknown time, the mechas from 49 years of Super Sentai joined forces to face the Calamity, an evil force determined to destroy the world. At the mecha's demise, a shining light came to be, Tegasword, a sentient godlike mecha who harnessed the power of all Super Sentai mecha of the past, successfully defeating the Calamity. The legendary powers of Sentai were then converted into Universe Warrior Sentai rings and scattered throughout space. It then transforms into a standby mode until the day it's woken again. At a grocery store, we meet Hoeru Tono, along with his co-worker and friend, Nasume Sasumi. Hoeru has little to no personality, expressing no emotion to the customer he serves. An armed thief then threatens the store owner, causing Hoeru to lash out in defense of the store. This, however, results in him getting fired. Hoeru goes home to immediately start applying for another job. He lives in an apartment above a coffee shop called the Half Century, run by a woman called Sayori, who is also his landlady. She has a son called Eo, who frequently fools around with Hoeru. We learn that Hoeru is constantly job hunting as he can never hold one down, setting up a trope for the series. En route to his job interview, Hoeru is mugged by a gang as revenge for what he did to one of their members, the store thief from earlier. Nasume sees him and begs him to be careful, saying a lot of people would be sad if something bad happened to him. This is where he deems himself a loner and that no one will miss him. We're simultaneously introduced to the No One world, a dimension parallel to ours that is affected by people's actions in the real world. At the Boraiden Castle, we meet Fire Candle and Bouquet, two executives of No One World Boraiden, a villainous wedding corporation and the main team of antagonists for the series. Fire Candle gets into a giant mecha as they set off to find the Lost Universe rings and Tegasword. Hoeru and Natsume are chatting. Natsume expresses his lifelong wish of becoming a full-time musician, determined to become the number 1 musician. He asks Hoeru if he has any wishes himself, and with a brief flash of a woman's voice, Hoeru says he has no wishes. That's when a portal opens up and Fire Candle arrives in King Candela. He begins to cause havoc in search for the rings, deploying Ari foot soldiers to scout the ground. As the chaos unfolds, Nasume steps forward, pulling out a Sentai ring and revealing a device. This is a version of the Tegasword, though smaller and silver. He yells engage, inserting the ring and clapping his hands. With a flash of energy, he becomes Kawagata Oja, the Red Ranger from King Oja. It's worth noting that this isn't the same Red Ranger from King Oja. He's also a doppelganger of Taya Hando from Boon Boomja, but only a doppelganger. He then charges into battle, fighting off the henchmen. Hoeru is very perplexed. He tries to help Nasume, but is transported into a huge cave, aka the original deathbed of the Super Sentai mechas, the resting place for Tegasword. Hoeru gets visions of the universe war, not quite being able to piece it together. Bouquet appears with an army of Ari. One of them takes a Sentai ring from the altar and is instantly disintegrated. Hoeru picks up the ring and Bouquet demands he give it back. He tells her that he owes Nasume money and he'll do whatever he can to repay him, clearly planning on selling the ring. He places it on his finger. It begins glowing and he seems to be in pain as energy seeps through his body. He completely vanishes, reappearing in a dark void. He's greeted by Tegasword, telling him that he'll grant a wish to whoever gathers all of the Sentai rings, as he shows flashes of past Sentai teams. Hoeru replies saying all of his wishes have already been shattered, revealing Hoeru as a child, being told he should find himself a wish by an unknown woman. Tegasword tells him he's yet to understand who he is and that he must become number 1, so that one day he'll find his wish and make it come true. He's then granted 3 items, the red Tegasword ring, the Goju Wolf ring, and a Tegasword. Similar to Nasume's, but this one is gold, reviving the real Tegasword in the process. Hoeru returns to Earth, howling into the sky and summoning Tegasword into battle. He gets teleported into Tegasword as it transforms into its battle mode. Hoeru is then seen in a fighting ring with Fire Candle, the subconscious visualization of all Gozyuger battles going forward. They go head to head, revealing the outfit warriors will wear during mecha battles. Many explosions and destroyed buildings later, Hoeru destroys King Candela, forcing Fire Candle to retreat. Seeing the Ari still attacking innocent people, Hoeru exits Tegasword, sliding down his arm and engaging in his henshin, becoming Goju Wolf for the first time. The power is so strong, it sends a signal to 4 other Goju rings. Hoeru fights the henchmen, destroying them all as 4 other ring holders watch over him. He then returns to Nasume, repaying him the money he owed. Nasume then notices the ring on Hoeru's finger, and questions why he took it if he truly has no wish, saying he simply wants to be number 1. Upset, Nasume henshins and they begin fighting, still being watched by the other ring holders. There's no sign of them stopping until somebody fires at them from a distance. Two guys, both with Gozyuger rings. This interference was enough to stop the battle as Natsume walks away, promising that he won't hold back the next time they fight. Back at Raiden Castle, Fire Candle and Bouquet discuss repairs to their mecha just as we meet another general of the corporation. Or technically two. Mr. Shining Knight and Mrs. Sweetcake. Excited to get back into action, they say one of their favourite number 1 monsters have been sent to Earth. Then, two doors swing open, revealing a giant head-like structure. As we return to Earth, Sayori is walking home before getting dragged into a portal by a No-One monster. This sets up the villain theme of capturing somebody from the real world in order to exit the No-One world. As a result, Treasure Hunt number 1 appears. Hoero confronts him, but they're interrupted by the two men from earlier. Ryugi Bakugami, keeper of the Goju Tyranno ring and religious follower of Tegasword. He shows off his superhuman strength by carrying a grand piano to the scene, followed by him singing about Tegasword, along with Rikuo Byakuya, keeper of the Goju Leon ring and former Japanese idol. Both reveal a gold Tegasword transforming into the blue and yellow Gozyugers. After fighting the foot soldiers, they end up in a 4-way battle. The winner will be who can get the most valued treasure. Ryugi and Hoero begin arguing, but Rikuo stands between them, stating they should be working together in their hunt for the rings. We then see Hoero inside Tegasword, using his blade to dig for treasure. Ryugi shows up and catches the sword with his bare hands, screaming at Hoero that he shouldn't dare summon Tegasword for something as irresponsible as this. He rips a tree from the ground and throws it at them, accidentally discovering treasure underneath. Meanwhile, Rikuo is using his past fame to trick an elderly couple into giving him a priceless vase, telling them he's suffering from a disease. Well, of course he's lying. Hoero finds Aor being bullied. He scares off the bullies and sits with him, finding out that he was picked on for his treasure, his mother's special recipe. They share the meal as Hoero essentially bows out of the battle. The following day, their treasure is valued and the No-One monster wins the battle. Cassius Bea, the leading Ari foot soldier, then appears in a giant mecha, Ayeza Crossandra. Hoero then shows up and knocks over all the treasure, stating that this was his plan all along to gain victory. He henchins and goes head to head with the treasure hunter. Following the arrival of foot soldiers, Rikuo henchins and summons Leon Blaster 50, his personalized weapon seen earlier. Ryugi summons Tegasword, taking on the Bell mecha with Tegasword Tyranno form. Amidst the battle, Rikuo pulls out a Sentai ring revealing Boon Boomja. He uses it, transforming himself into Boon Red as he keeps his Goju Leon chestplate on, another first time use of what will be a reoccurring gimmick for the show. They individually defeat the monsters they were fighting, with Hoero saving Sayori and defeating Treasure Hunter. He is then deemed the winner of today's battle. Fire Candle is very stressed, revealing Cassius Bea was his best friend. Bouquet is very interested in the Ranger's rings as the being behind her begins to shift, revealing giant eyes. The next morning, Hoero wakes up to discover a redesign of the cafe, now covered in the Gozyuger logo. Sayori tells him she's hired a new manager, Ryugi, and that he and Rikuo will be sticking around for a while so they can work together to find the universe rings. We then see one final shot of Natsume as he walks away, destined to return. Hoero gets a new job in a food market. He's restocking when he can smell something really powerful. He begins excessively sniffing the customers, scaring them off, which results in him getting fired. He's met with Rikuo, who tells him his super smell is a byproduct of his Goju ring, explaining Ryugi's strength and revealing his ability of superhuman hearing. They walk into town amongst a giant crowd, all gathered round to meet the new Prime Minister of Japan, Tokunatsu Atami. During his speech, he pulls out a Sentai ring, revealing himself to possess the powers of Don Momotaro, the Red Ranger from Don Brothers. His actor also portrayed Ultraman Trigia in Ultraman Tiger. The man who fired Hoero wishes to be as popular as Tokunatsu, prompting possession from number 1 popular monster. He shows up to the public with the Ari, but is attacked by Tokunatsu. The monster retreats and Tokunatsu believes to have claimed victory. Back at the cafe, the Rangers are discussing the Prime Minister's ring when a woman appears, saying they shouldn't attempt to steal it from him as it would be very unwise. Ryugi explains their plan to assist each other in collecting the rings, then eventually taking on each other as there can only be one winner. He asks her why she cares so much, but she dashes away too quickly. The Nomans return and engage in a popularity competition, being the main versus battle for this week. Rikuo uses his fame to garner an audience, revealing that Bouquet is a huge fan of Rikuo and becomes a huge sim for him. A fight then breaks out between Goju Wolf and Don Momotaro, revealing that Tokunatsu also possesses the Jetman ring, enabling the use of wings. Rikuo and Ryugi get involved, introducing Goju Tyranno's weapon, Tyranno Hammer 50. Bouquet then joins the fight in a mecha called Calendus and goes head to head with Rikuo in Tegasword Leon. Ryugi reveals the Oranger Sentai ring, transforming and trapping Tokunatsu in a force field. Hoero frees the store owner, but Tokunatsu still wins the overall battle. They engage in conversation before being fired at by another Ranger, Goju Eagle. He briefly flies away and Tokonatsu is joined by the woman we saw earlier, Sumino Ichikawa, the Prime Minister's right-hand lady and a private detective. She raises her hand, revealing she is the keeper of the Goju Unicorn Ring. They leave and Goju Eagle returns, transforming and revealing himself to be an 87-year-old man named Joji Takahara. We take a look into Joji's past. He's a father and a grandfather, frequently being called stubborn and grumpy by his grandson. One day he found the Goju Eagle Ring and met Tegasord, just like the others. He declared his wish for eternal youth, having felt he wasted away his life. Due to his age, fighting for the rings would have been very difficult, so Tegasord creates a contract with Joji, granting his wish early in order to gather the rings. However, if he fails, he'll permanently be restored to his mortal form. Joji returns to Earth, now in the body of a teenager. The reason he is now seen in his natural form is because he needs lots of nutrients to maintain his younger body, devouring an omurice as eggs are his go-to food. Excited to live as a young man, Joji enrolls in a high school, unbeknownst to him, the same one his grandson, Futoshi, attends. In a panic, he introduces himself as Kinjiro to hide his true identity, taking the name from Takekinji, aka Birds of Prey. Meanwhile, Sumino is spying on a prosecutor named Sakuraba. She confronts him, demanding info on a disappearance of a young girl named Otto, Sumino's little sister. He has no info but notices her Goju ring, whipping out his own ring and turning into Ryusoul Red from Ryusoulger. Sumino tries to hench but for an unknown reason, she is unable to engage. Luckily, Tokonatsu shows up and defends Sumino, using the Time Ranger ring to track Sakuraba in the form of an action figure, a trope used in Time Ranger. Up at Raiden's castle, Bouquet is deeply upset because her Rikuo merchandise was destroyed during her battle with Goju Leon, determined for him to pay for his actions. Shining Knife and Sweet Cake come up with a plan to gather more Sentai rings, summoning two golden Aries called Star 5 and Misuta 5. Back on Earth, Kinjiro feels pressured by the cooler kids in school to be rebellious, even being told by his none the wiser grandchild that his stubbornness reminds him of his grandpa, and they get into an argument. He's very upset and he removes his ring and throws it into the river, seemingly giving up on his wish. Howeru gives Kinjiro some advice, resulting in him wanting to make amends with his grandson and his family. We see a flashback of his late wife, wanting to restore the joy he had when she was still around. He sets out to find his grandson, running into party people number 1 in the process, and no one that possessed the rebellious kid from Kinjiro's class. All Gojujas minus Kinjiro are trapped under the No One spell, unable to henshin. The monster tries to attack Futoshi, but Kinjiro saves him. They apologize to each other for earlier, and Kinjiro tells him to never give up on his dreams, projecting advice for himself onto his grandson. Kinjiro then runs back into battle, his ring rematerializes onto his finger, and he henshins into Goju Eagle, summoning his weapon, Eagle Shooter 50. He takes on the No One, freeing those affected by his spell. The other Rangers henshin and the four unite. With two Ari mechas around, Hoeru summons Tegasord to fight them, switching out with Rikuo and Ryugi along the way for additional attacks. Kinjiro takes on party people and frees the student, winning the versus battle. Futoshi ends up going to his dad, taking Kinjiro's advice and declaring he wants to go to art school. Shinji, the father, assures Futoshi that he's proud of him and will support his decisions no matter what happens. They also say they'll apologize to Joji when he returns, and of course he overhears this and hugs them both. Confused at first, it's implied that Futoshi may have realized Kinjiro is his grandfather, but it's never explicitly explained. As Kinjiro walks away, Hoeru has been watching all along, looking down at a photo of his family before he also leaves the scene. Sumino is seen on the rooftop looking at a photo of his sister, begging the universe to reunite them again. Sumino meets up with two guys, supposedly for a joint date, but later revealed that they were both witnesses of Otto's kidnapping, wanting to get info from them. They claim to have no knowledge, so Sumino reveals her special ability of telepathy to read their minds. Neither of them took her question seriously though, so she got no info and ends up walking away. She gets a call from Tokonatsu, asking them to meet up. He begs Sumino not to be so reckless after their encounter in the parking lot. She says she will do anything to find her sister and won't let him get in the way. He understands and, as an apology, gives her the Ryusoulger ring. She then swears that she will find Otto along with the other Sentai rings. One of the guys from the date is upset that she left, simping over her and wishes they had more time, prompting a possession from Nosy number 1. Sumino goes to the team's cafe and meets Kinjiro for the first time. They learn more about her, finding out that she was fired from the police force for attacking an innocent man who she suspected was Otto's kidnapper. She now wants to join the other Gojujas in search for both the rings and her sister. But before they continue, Hoeru sniffs out the Nosy number 1. They race to the scene where Rikuo and Ryugi are challenged to a meddling competition. After an attempt from both of them along with Kinjiro, they are outdone by the No One. With Rikuo, Ryugi and Kinjiro trapped, Sumino sprays a foul-scented mist into Hoeru's face, overstimulating his enhanced smell. She then goes to each ranger, removing their rings one by one and taking off with them. They have truly been had. Whilst running away, Sumino comes across a little boy who has fallen over and grazed his knee. She insists on stopping to help him, allowing Hoeru to catch up to her. Demanding his ring back, she throws a dead ring off the pier, distracting Hoeru long enough to get away. Sumino arrives at a warehouse where she gets pursued by the Ari, still unable to activate her Tega Sword. Hoeru arrives and helps her fight off the foot soldiers before Nosy number 1 chains him to a support beam. He then pulls out a white hairband, the same hairband Otto was wearing the day she was kidnapped, that's riddled with the fingerprints of her kidnapper. He declares that if she wants the hairband, she must not only hand over the rings, but also kill Hoeru. He lights a barrel on fire, threatening to burn the evidence if she rejects the offer. Sumino raises her Tega Sword to Hoeru's neck, apologising for what she must do, but Hoeru sees more in her. He says to kill him if that's her true wish, but he doesn't think it is. We see a flashback to Sumino when she was younger, carrying her sister with the same band-aid note she gave the young boy. She is very respectful of the police force, wishing that one day she too can help as many people as possible. Back in present day, Sumino raises her Tega Sword and slices through the chains, freeing Hoeru. The headband is instantly burned, but Sumino doesn't care. She is still determined to find Otto, along with being the force for good she's always aspired to be. She swears to Tega Sword that she'll use her power to protect people, finally coming to terms with her wish and giving power to her ring. Finally, Sumino is able to hench in and becomes Goju Unicorn, the Black Ranger. She takes on the No One, summoning Unicorn Drill 50 and truly giving them a run for their money as she uses her telepathy to predict his attacks. The other Rangers arrive and demand their rings back. Sumino agrees but assures them she'll reclaim them one day. The rest transform and the battle continues. A mecha appears piloted by Ari Magigaya, a character reference to Magi Ranger with the show's logo appearing. For the first time, Kinjiro summons Tega Sword and activates Tega Sword Eagle, a slick green and gold design with the ability of flight, simultaneously revealing Kinjiro's special ability, Enhanced Sight. On the ground, Sumino uses the Ryu Soldier Ring, becoming Ryusol Red, and defeating the monster, winning the overall battle. They return to the cafe and Sumino elaborates on her sister's kidnapping, stating that the only piece of information she has is that Otto's kidnapper had foggy, grey eyes. We then see Rikuo with some fans, where one of them claims to be such a long-time supporter, even remembering the days when he had foggy, grey eyes. Sometime after, Hoeru is watering some plants while standing on top of Tega Sword. Ryugi once again yells at him for taking advantage of the power. They return to the cafe and Kinjiro is quite concerned, watching the news as Prime Minister Tokonotsu is being forced to resign due to his sword violating a weapons policy. And Ari, dressed as a postman, delivers the Rangers a holographic message. It has a hologram of Shining Knife and Sweet Cake, revealing that Tokonotsu has joined forces with them, where he declares his goal to rule the country under his own terms. He challenges the Gozyugers to a standoff, creating his own base of operations using the Bokenja Sentai ring. Angered by his betrayal, Hoeru decides he must hunt Tokonotsu alone. They arrive at Tokonotsu's castle, all agreeing that whoever retrieves his rings gets to keep them. His castle is set up with multiple floors of trials, all needing to be beaten before getting to fight with him at the end. Meanwhile, Fire Candle wants to meddle with this ring hunt, saying he will hand over the rings if it means he gets to avoid human victory. The Rangers face the trial, each one beaten by a different member of the team. The final trial is to play family, something that gives Hoeru PTSD. Fire Candle interrupts, forcing the Rangers into battle, but Hoeru is held back by Tokonotsu, forced to finish the trial. Hoeru's PTSD continues, revealing past events. 10 years ago, he was living with his mother, father, and older brother Hisamitsu. One day, he and Hisamitsu were somehow transported to the No One world and were hunted down by the monsters of the world. While on the run, he loses his older brother. Several years later, Hoeru somehow made it back to the real world, and so his parents had moved on, having 2 new children. This is what resulted in Hoeru's loathing of wishes and becoming a lone wolf. Tokonotsu feels genuinely sorry for Hoeru, also explaining how he has no friends and why he originally wanted to be number 1 popular. Tokonotsu's wish to the Tega Sword is to have a true friend, something he's never had. Hoeru empathizes with him, helping him complete the final trial. The rest of the team are fighting Ari foot soldiers when Hoeru and Tokonotsu join them, all on the same team to fight against Fire Candle. Shining Knife and Sweet Cake appear and are deeply angered over Tokonotsu's betrayal, growing to the size of mechas to cause havoc. Sumino jumps into action, calling on Tega Sword and debuting Tega Sword Unicorn. They end up fighting in a cake coliseum created by the duo. They begin to overpower Sumino before she activates a special ability on her Tega Sword formation, Charge Mode. mode, turning Tegasword's humanoid structure into one that resembles a centaur, increasing their mobility and using the fabulous drill finisher to defeat Mr. Shining Knife and Mrs. Sweetcake. On the ground, Hayato and Tokonatsu work together to defeat Fire Candle and Denjitsu Park, this week's Gold Ari. They destroy Denjitsu and Fire Candle retreats, leaving just Hayato and Tokonatsu on the battleground. They both know what must happen. With nothing but respect for each other, they draw their weapons, finally facing head to head. They both charge ahead, attempting to strike one another, but Hayato is the one who succeeds. Tokonatsu falls to the ground. His Tegasword disintegrates and his 4 Sentai rings are granted to Hayato. Tokonatsu is no longer in a contract with Tegasword, but Hayato says his wish still came true, agreeing to be his true friend. Tokonatsu is thrilled, already planning to rerun for Prime Minister in the next election, with full support of the Gozyugers. All is well until Shining Knife and Sweetcake re-emerge and fire at Sumino. Defenseless, she braces for impact as a cloaked mecha shields her from the attack. As the smoke clears, we see the head of Gozyuger, the original mecha from Zyuranger. Inside, Universe Warrior Tyranno Ranger. Sweetcake is very confused by their arrival, but Shining Knife is alarmed, knowing full well that Gozyuger was thought to be destroyed in the Universe War. Gozyuger removes his cloak and performs its finisher, shrinking the couple down, forcing them to retreat. The Rangers watch in awe as Tyranno Ranger steps onto the shoulder of Gozyuger, transforming out of his suit. He sees that the team are finally together, but still not cooperating as they should. A few days pass by and Sumino is investigating a new case and Rikuo wants to help her. She tells him she doesn't want his help, but he's very persistent. He says she can use her telepathy so we can see he truly wants to help, but we find out she can't use her powers on somebody else with a ring. Suddenly, a no one appears and teleports them to a nightclub looking arena. Sumino is placed under a heartthrob spell, making this week's #1 battle who is the best charmer. Rikuo goes against Tokimeki #1 in a series of challenges to woo Sumino, some quite charming, some downright creepy. Overall, Rikuo ends up taking the lead. Back at the cafe, Hayato, Ryugi and Kinjiro are interrupted by Tyranno Ranger, introducing himself as Meguru Osai, a college professor who specializes in Sentai archaeology. He explains that the power of the Zyuranger ring can regain what has been lost, hence the return of Gozyuger. He explains to the guys that whilst the 5 Gozyugers are together, they still don't qualify as a proper Super Sentai team. He challenges them to work together to make a good Omurice, offering to reward them with the Kyoryuger and Abaranger Sentai rings. They begin prepping and can't resist arguing throughout. Osai shows them a notepad filled with Super Sentai lore, even seeing sketches of 1975's Go Ranger. He reveals that only Red Ranger's powers were collected after the Universe War, and since Gozyugers have a full team, they're the only ones capable of holding the title of Super Sentai. With encouragement from Ao, the team finally decide to work together to make the perfect Omurice, ending up with a dish that represents each Ranger's colour. Osai deems this as a win for them, but tasks them with a final assignment yet to be known. Back with Rikuo and Sumino, their final round is to open up to Sumino, where the no one fails. Rikuo then truly opens up to her, finally revealing why he's deemed a former idol. He reveals he didn't have a great outlook on life as a child, but after becoming famous, he adored the feeling of making others happy, revealing a blue marble he holds onto which represents brighter days. He says someone was jealous of him, spreading false rumours that resulted in his career's downfall, though he vows to reach the top again, proving the allegations wrong. This wins Rikuo the battle, but the no one still wants to fight 1v1. Rikuo and Sumino are ready to hench in just as the rest of the team arrive along with Osai. He says their final task is to all work together, resulting in our first official team transformation, followed by a rough, but albeit attempted, team pose. Osai is excited by this, turning into Tyranno Ranger and giving Kinjiro and Ryugi the Sentai rings. Hayato asks why he wasn't rewarded one, where he's told his reward has been postponed for now. Rikuo takes on the no one as the Rangers fight the Ari as Dino Rangers. Hayato then uses the Don Brothers ring and uses origami to his aid. A no one mecha appears where Hayato and Osai call on Tegasword and Gozyuger. After some back and forth, they utilize the final god special finisher to destroy the mecha along with its pilot Mike Goseic. Rikuo is still battling the no one when he charms him over, distracting him long enough to extract the civilian and destroy him, deeming him winner of this battle once and for all. The Rangers group together and are given a pep talk by Osai, complimenting them coming together as a true Sentai team should. Before he can finish what he's saying, he's shot through the back, falling to the floor with his condition being unknown. The Rangers look up to see a suited figure with a blaster that looks very similar to a Tegasword. The mysterious figure is known as Ring Hunter Garyudo, a bounty hunter for Queen Tegajune who ends up taking Osai's rings and his body. This is the first time we've truly seen Queen Tegajune awake and sentient, revealing that she's tasked Ring Hunter to gather all the Sentai rings so she can one day be married. However, we still have very little information on her. It's revealed that Gozyuger already has some Sentai rings with flashbacks of him assassinating those who possessed them. Gozyuger states that his next target is Goju Wolf, sparking a conflict between him and Fire Candle as they both want to be the ones to defeat him. Back at the cafe, Hawaru is annoyed because he didn't sleep well since Kinjiro moved in next door, who of course had been up all night partying. We also learn Kinjiro now has a part-time job at the cafe, making Hawaru even angrier. Ryugi and Kinjiro leave as someone else walks in. Confused at first, Hawaru realizes this is Hisamitsu, his long-lost brother. They embrace each other out of pure joy, finally being reunited after all these years. They go for a walk, catching up and discussing what happened to them many years ago. It's here that Hisamitsu reveals that he doesn't go by that name anymore, and instead is referred to as Kwon. He tells Hawaru that he has an AI company that he wishes to use to make everybody in the world much happier. Behind closed doors, Kwon ends up firing an employee. But everything's not as it seems. He makes an X shape with his fingers, resulting in his employee being lit up by a big red X. Fire Candle goes on a destruction spree around town, forcing 4 of the Gozyugers to confront him and battle. Hawaru and Kwon stumble upon the battle, and before he can leap into action, Kwon tells him it's time to destroy the Gozyugers. Hawaru is very confused until Kwon pulls out his Tegajune and Sentai ring, revealing himself to be Ring Hunter Gozyuger and having attacked Osai. He asks Hawaru why he's even fighting if he has no wish, and that his purpose as a Gozyuger is utterly pointless. Hawaru henshins and joins the fight, but ends up attacking his team, saying they should never have joined forces in the first place if they were always going to end up opposing each other in the end. Fire Candle of course wants Hawaru to himself and dares him to call on Tegasword so they can fight 1v1 in their mechas. As they fight in the skies, the rest of the team battle with Gozyuger, who uses Sentai rings to spawn clones of Gosai Red and Aka Ninja. After they smoke the team, he blasts the clones, turning them into their personalized weapons, using them for himself and further damaging the team. In the mechas, Hawaru's mind is clearly elsewhere and is not focused on the battle, allowing Fire Candle to overpower him. He has the perfect moment to destroy Tegasword and Hawaru readying his finishing strike. However, something deep inside him makes him realize this is not the rematch he wanted, saying he will win, but it must be a noble win. Fire Candle retreats and Hawaru is both physically and mentally drained. On the ground, Gozyuger also disappears as Hawaru comes down from the Tegasword. The team respond to what he said earlier, surrounding him and offering him the fight he desired. However, Hawaru understands that his wish, if he has one at all, is redundant, removing his ring and throwing it on the floor. Kwon watches from afar as his plans come into fruition, setting out to finally destroy Hawaru. Time passes by and Hawaru is now a butler at a restaurant. While serving, he comes across Fire Candle who sat at a table. Seeing Hawaru and then remembering his ordeal with Gozyuger infuriates him, storming away before paying for his meal. Hawaru stops him, insisting he pays before they break into a fight. The manager steps between them and proposes that he works to pay for his meal, creating a mini 1v1 challenge between Hawaru and Fire Candle, equipped with a drawn-out versus sign and leaderboard. Meanwhile at the Half-Century Cafe, the team are worried about Hawaru as Kwon makes an appearance. He threatens the Gozyugers to stay away from Hawaru. Rikawa stands up for him, telling Kwon to leave him alone as the other rangers have his back. This offends Kwon, where he eventually decides he wants to kill the whole team and not just Hawaru. After the mini competition, Hawaru and Fire Candle discuss their situation, where Hawaru reveals he is deathly afraid of losing. Not just himself, but scared of losing those he loves. A sense of PTSD after what happened to him as a child. Fire Candle says he doesn't mind losing as it's the thrill of the battle itself that keeps his fire burning. Fire Candle thanks him for allowing him to speak openly, which is something he clearly never gets to do. Just as he leaves, Hawaru is teleported to the Tegasword realm and explains to Tegasword why he let go of his ring. Tegasword tells Hawaru he must break beyond his fears and shape a better world for himself. We then cut to the Gozyugers going 4v1 with Kwon. He fights them off and then spawns in Geki Red, Spade Ace and Denji Red. The fight continues as Rikawa transforms into Bune Red, doubling his firepower. Kwon effectively dodges all of his blasts, combining Denji Red with Geki Red to create an even more powerful ranger. He attacks Rikawa, disabling his Bune Red ring and knocking it from his person. Kwon picks it up, slowly gaining more and more Sentai rings. The team are really struggling, just as Hoeru shows up to the scene. Kwon greets him, prepared to finally finish the job he started. Ryugi, still fighting with Denji Red, tells Hoeru that he still has an unpaid tab at the cafe. The rest of the team join in, explaining everything Hoeru owes them, and they won't leave him alone until they're repaid. He's a little confused at first, but by doing this, they're inviting Hoeru to stick around without the added pressure of having to bond with them. A very clever and heartwarming loophole to their situation. Rikuo throws Hoeru his ring. With the support of the team, Hoeru does his iconic howl into the sky, declaring he is done running from his fears, wearing the ring with pride and transforming into Goju Wolf. He says not only is he ready to open his world further, but wants to create a better one for everyone. Having gained this new outlook, the Goju Wolf ring begins to glow, activating for the first time his chest plate, giving him access to his own personalised weapon, Wolf de Caliber 50. Hoeru takes on the Universe Warriors, using an ability from his sword to outpace them and destroy them. With only Kwon left, Hoeru stands up to his brother, declaring he will not be going easy on him this time. Whilst Kwon may be the more skilled fighter, Hoeru's willpower, along with the help of his new sword, sees Hoeru to victory as he uses an insane finishing move to win the battle against his brother. He's able to claim one of Kwon's rings, the Ninja ring, just as he vanishes. As night falls, Fire Candle appears in King Candela, ready for their true rematch in spite of their last. Hoeru summons Tega Sword, this time combining with his sword to gain the power of Tega Sword Red Deca Claw. The battle begins, but isn't very long as this new Tega Sword formation is unmatched. Fire Candle is defeated, but is thrilled to see Hoeru's newfound passion to battle, returning to the Buraiden Castle as Hoeru takes victory, not just as Goju Wolf, but as Hoeru Tono. Back at the cafe, Hoeru apologises to the team without hesitation, saying he'd love to stick around. The team forgive him, but still insists he must pay his debts over time. Back in the No One world, Kwon is seen presumably where he lives. He takes his jacket off, revealing a giant, gaping X on his back that is seemingly getting bigger by the second. He screams in pain, stating his time with Hoeru is yet to be done. And that is the entire first round of number 1 Sentai Gozyuger. It seems there'll be another 3 or 4 arcs to this show, and I will be recapping all of them, culminating in a mega recap of the whole show when it finishes next year. If you like Gozyuger, I post regular content on the show, so consider subscribing to keep up to date. And if you want to see the rest of these videos early, then consider supporting the channel on Patreon. It's £3 or $4 per month, and you get early access, ad-free viewing, along with your names credited at the end of my videos. If you want to see more Super Sentai content, then click the playlist in the end card, and let me know your favourite Gozyuger moments so far in the comments. Huge thank you and shout out to Sarah Jane, our Super Dino Mode Patreon.